Before you can address a woman's lack of respect toward you, you need to clearly identify what disrespect looks like. Many men are conditioned by culture, upbringing, or insecurity to tolerate behavior that slowly chips away at their self-worth. That's why recognizing early signs of disrespect is not just a relationship skill, it's a survival skill. Disrespect isn't always loud, obvious, or aggressive. Sometimes it's silent and subtle. It hides in sarcastic comments masked as jokes, in dismissive body language, or in consistent interruptions when you speak. It shows up when she belittles your opinions, talks down to you, or uses manipulation tactics to control your emotions. It may even come across as withholding affection or appreciation, especially when you've done nothing wrong. Some women may test boundaries, especially if they've learned that power equals dominance, not partnership. Others may project their own pain or trauma onto you. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to spot these patterns. Here are a few clear warning signs you shouldn't ignore. She constantly talks over you or dismisses your point of view. She makes backhanded compliments or sarcastic jabs, especially in front of others. She controls decisions, finances, or social plans without considering your input. She rarely acknowledges your efforts or sacrifices. She uses shame, guilt, or silent treatment to get what she wants. She threatens to leave or uses your insecurities against you during arguments. You might try to brush these off. You might tell yourself, maybe she's just having a bad day, or that's just how she jokes. But if these behaviors repeat, they're not isolated incidents. They're a pattern, and every time you excuse that pattern, you reinforce it. Silence is permission. You must also reflect inward. Are you tolerating disrespect because you're afraid of being alone? Are you accepting crumbs of attention because you think you don't deserve better? Are you holding on to a version of her that no longer exists? Awareness is the first step to reclaiming your self-respect. If you can't name what's wrong, you can't fix it, and you definitely can't demand better. This is not about becoming hyper, vigilant, or controlling. It's about becoming self-aware and self-protective. It's about understanding your worth so clearly that anything less than respect becomes unbearable. Because here's the truth. A man who knows his value does not entertain people who diminish it. So before you can handle a woman who disrespects you, you must first stop tolerating it. Fellas, let's get one thing straight. Respect is not optional. It's not a luxury, it's not a reward, and it's definitely not something you should beg for. It's a baseline. If a woman doesn't respect you, the relationship is already broken. I don't care how beautiful she is, how much history you have, or how afraid you are of starting over. If there's no respect, there's no foundation, period. See, as men, we're taught to be tough, to tolerate more, to endure. We're told to be providers, protectors, to hold it down even when it's hurting us. But that toughness often turns into silence, and that silence becomes self-destruction. You deserve better, not because you're perfect, but because you're human, and respect is not earned through suffering. It's maintained through boundaries. So let's stop tolerating crumbs and pretending it's a feast. Let's stop explaining ourselves to people who already made up their minds. If she doesn't respect you, you don't correct her. You correct your presence in her life. Today, I'm going to walk you through 9 key ways to handle women who do not respect you. Not with hate, not with revenge, but with clarity, self-worth, and non-negotiable standards. This is how you take your power back. The first step to handling a woman who doesn't respect you is simple but powerful. Recognize the patterns, not just the isolated moments. Most men miss this because they focus on events instead of habits. But disrespect rarely shows up as one big explosion. It creeps in little by little until it becomes the norm. Maybe she criticizes you in front of others, but says, "I was just joking." Maybe she ignores your efforts, but praises other men for doing the bare minimum. Maybe she rolls her eyes when you talk or dismisses your ideas like they're unimportant. It's easy to make excuses. She's just stressed. She didn't mean it. She's having a bad day. But here's the truth. A bad day doesn't become a bad habit unless you allow it. And if it keeps happening, it's not an accident. It's a choice, one that she's repeatedly making in your presence. You've got to stop romanticizing the good moments and start noticing the overall tone of the relationship. Ask yourself, do I feel heard? Do I feel safe to express myself? Do I feel respected when I'm not at my best? If the answer is no, too many times you're not in a relationship. You're in a power struggle where you're being slowly minimized. Recognizing the pattern doesn't mean reacting with anger, it means waking up. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't reclaim your power if you're still giving the benefit of the doubt to someone who consistently tears you down. Remember this: one insult can be forgiven, but repeated disrespect is a message, one that says, "I don't value you." And your job isn't to argue with that message. Your job is to hear it loud and clear and act accordingly. Stop explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening. One of the biggest mistakes men make when dealing with a woman who doesn't respect them is over-explaining themselves, trying to prove their worth, justify their actions, or beg to be understood. But here's the hard truth: if she doesn't want to understand you, she never will. You can write essays with your mouth. You can lay your heart on the table. But if she's committed to misunderstanding you, nothing you say will ever be good enough. And the more you talk, the more power you give away. A woman who respects you listens. She may not always agree, but she hears you. She considers your perspective. She asks questions instead of making assumptions. But if she constantly cuts you off, mocks your emotions, or twists your words, you're not having a conversation. You're defending yourself in a courtroom where the verdict has already been decided. Stop wasting energy trying to get someone to see your side when they've already chosen their blindfold. Instead of repeating yourself louder, lower your voice and raise your standards. Say what you mean once, clearly, calmly, and firmly. If she's not listening, that's her choice, but staying in the conversation, that's your choice. And if you keep explaining yourself to someone who isn't listening, what you're really doing is negotiating your self-worth. You don't need to convince someone to respect you. Respect isn't earned through endless conversations. It's earned through consistent action. And when your words no longer carry weight, it's time to let your silence speak louder. Because real men don't argue for their value. They embody it. Set boundaries without apology. Here's a truth many men were never taught. Boundaries are not aggression. They are self-respect in action. And when dealing with a woman who disrespects you, the absence of clear boundaries invites ongoing mistreatment. Too many men fear setting boundaries because they don't want to appear controlling or insecure. So they tolerate behavior that chips away at their dignity. They confuse being a good man with being a silent man, but silence doesn't make you noble. It just makes you a target for disrespect. If she constantly talks down to you, disrespects your time, invades your privacy, or dismisses your feelings and you say nothing, you're not being strong. You're being invisible. A boundary is not a threat. It's not about punishing someone. It's about protecting yourself. It sounds like, "I won't stay in conversations where I'm being insulted. If you raise your voice, I'll leave the room. I'm not okay with being compared to other men. If this continues, I'm stepping back from this relationship." And notice something important. You don't ask for permission to set a boundary. You don't explain it. You enforce it. And you do it without guilt, shame, or fear of losing her. Why? Because the only thing worse than losing someone who doesn't respect you is losing yourself while trying to keep them. And if she pushes back, if she calls you too sensitive, too cold, or too much, good, that's your test, because people who benefit from you having no boundaries will always resist when you finally build them. But remember, you're not doing this for her. You're doing it for you. Respect starts with what you allow. The moment you stop apologizing for your standards, you stop attracting people who try to break them. So set your boundaries, say them with your chest, then let your actions prove you mean it. Don't argue, observe when a woman disrespects you. Your first instinct might be to fight for clarity, to argue, to explain, to prove that you're right and that she's wrong. You want to be understood. You want to be heard. But here's the brutal truth. The more you argue with someone who disrespects you, the more you validate their behavior. You give them a stage, you give them energy, and most of all, you give them control. But there's a better move. Stop arguing, start observing. You learn more by watching how someone treats you when they think you won't leave than by anything they say. Pay attention to how she talks to you when she's angry, how she treats you in front of other people, how she responds when you express discomfort or hurt, whether she takes accountability or flips the script and blames you. Disrespect isn't always loud, it's consistent. And you don't need to react to every offense. Some things don't require a reply, they require distance. When you stop engaging emotionally and start observing silently, people show you who they truly are. And when someone shows you they don't value you, believe them. Because here's the truth. Arguing is a sign you're still trying to win her over. Observing is a sign you're deciding if she deserves to stay. This shift puts the power back in your hands. It moves you from reaction to reflection, and it reminds you that you don't need to win a fight. You need to win your peace. So stop wasting breath explaining your worth to someone committed to overlooking it. Instead, pull back, observe, evaluate, then decide. Not based on potential, not based on feelings, but based on patterns. Don't compete for her respect with. Draw your energy, let's be real. When a woman constantly disrespects you, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to win her respect back. You start performing, working harder, being extra nice, proving your loyalty, hoping she'll finally see your worth. But let me tell you the truth most men don't hear. You should never have to compete for basic respect. Respect isn't something you earn by overextending yourself. It's something people give because they recognize your value. And if they don't, your job isn't to try harder. Your job is to pull your energy back. When you compete for respect, you send a dangerous message. I'll work harder for you to treat me better. That turns the relationship into a power imbalance where she sits on the throne while you keep chasing her approval like a servant. That's not love, that's emotional servitude. Instead, take your attention off of her and place it squarely back on yourself. Focus on your goals, level up your health, your peace, your purpose. Stop trying to convince her and start reminding yourself who you are. Energy is currency, and the more you invest it into someone who disrespects you, the more you bankrupt your confidence. You don't need her validation. You don't need her praise, and you sure as hell don't need her permission to stop trying. Because the most powerful move you can make in any relationship is this: withdraw your energy and watch how quickly the dynamic shifts. If she respects you, she'll notice and self-correct. If she doesn't, she'll accuse you of being distant. And that's your final confirmation to leave. Bottom line, a woman who doesn't respect your presence should never have access to your energy. Communicate once, then act. When a woman disrespects you, the first thing you owe her and yourself is clarity. But only once, that's it. Here's where most men go wrong. They keep explaining. They repeat the same message over and over, hoping she'll finally get it. But if you have to say the same thing multiple times just to be heard, you're not being respected, you're being managed. So here's the rule. Say what you mean once, calmly, firmly, directly, then move accordingly. It sounds like, I don't tolerate being disrespected like that. If this happens again, I'm stepping back from this relationship. That crossed a line and I won't accept it. Say it once, without yelling, without guilt, without begging. Then step back and watch what she does. If she acknowledges it and makes real effort to change, good. That's maturity. But if she laughs it off, flips the blame, or does it again, then you don't repeat yourself. You respond with distance. Why? Because the more you talk without action, the more she learns that your words mean nothing. You train people how to treat you by what you tolerate after you've already explained yourself. You don't need to keep talking. You don't need to beg for behavior she already knows is wrong. Respect is not a debate, it's a boundary, and boundaries are only real when they come with consequences. You want her to listen. Show her that your silence is louder than your speeches. You want her to change. Show her that your absence is more powerful than your presence. Bottom line, speak once, then move like you meant it. Heal the parts of you that attract disrespect. This one hits different. It's not about her, it's about you, because here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the reason you tolerate disrespect isn't because she's powerful. It's because you're unhealed. You may think she changed, but ask yourself honestly, why didn't I leave the first time she crossed the line? Why did I normalize being disrespected in the first place? The answer usually leads back to your inner wounds. Maybe you grew up in a home where love was conditional, so you learned to chase approval. Maybe you never had your voice heard, so now you stay silent in the name of peace. Maybe part of you believes that disrespect is the price you pay to avoid being alone, but that ends here, because the way you allow someone to treat you is always rooted in how you feel about yourself. And no strategy, no boundary, no speech, no clever comeback will save you if deep down you believe you deserve less than respect. You have to do the inner work. You have to heal the little boy inside you who just wanted to be enough. You have to stop confusing pain with passion. You have to stop staying in toxic connections hoping that your love will fix their dysfunction. You can't attract a healthy relationship while holding on to a wounded identity. Healing isn't pretty. It's messy. It requires solitude. It requires honesty. It means going inward and facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. But once you do, everything changes. You stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop trying to fix broken people while you bleed, and most importantly, you stop accepting disrespect disguised as love. So if you're asking yourself, why do I keep ending up in these situations? Stop blaming bad women and start healing the version of you that keeps choosing them. Because you don't just need better relationships, you need a better relationship with yourself. Don't try to change her, change the role she plays in your life. One of the most exhausting things a man can do is try to fix a woman who disrespects him. You think, if I love her harder, she'll soften. If I keep proving myself, she'll finally see me. If I explain my pain, she'll stop causing it. But here's the reality. It is not your job to change her. It is your job to change your position in her life. Stop trying to remodel someone who refuses to grow. Stop trying to earn basic decency from someone who doesn't value it. And most importantly, stop giving girlfriend or wife privileges to someone who treats you like an option. You are not her project manager. You are not her father. You are not her emotional rehab center. You are a man, and your role is to lead your life with integrity, not to babysit dysfunction. If she constantly disrespects you, you don't need to teach her how to act. You simply need to reduce her access. People don't respect lectures. They respect distance. They respect absence. They respect doors that actually close, not just threaten to. Here's the move. Downgrade her from partner to acquaintance, from priority to lesson, from maybe she'll change to she had her chance. And when you shift her role, you shift your power. Suddenly, you're not the man trying to be chosen. You're the man choosing. You're not stuck in cycles. You're stepping into clarity, and yes, it'll hurt, especially if you're emotionally invested. But the pain of letting go is temporary. The pain of staying disrespected, that's permanent. So stop trying to change her. Start changing how close she stands to the version of you that's no longer begging for crumbs. Elevate your circle and standards. Let's end this series of principles with the one that changes everything. Elevate your circle. Elevate your standards. Elevate your life. You cannot expect to be respected in your relationships if you keep surrounding yourself with people who don't respect themselves. You can't grow in environments where dysfunction is normalized, where disrespect is excused, and where low-value behavior is dressed up as real love. The truth is simple. Your standards set the tone for how you're treated. If you tolerate chaos, you'll live in it. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll receive it. But when you raise your standards, not out of ego, but out of clarity, everything shifts. Here's the hard part, though. When you start expecting more, people who benefited from the old you will fall off. The ones who liked you quiet, compliant, or always available, they'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. Good. You were supposed to. You were never meant to stay stuck in relationships where love feels like a fight and respect is a maybe. Elevating your standards isn't just about what you stop tolerating. It's about what you start demanding from yourself: emotional discipline, self-awareness, healthy friendships, a vision bigger than survival. Because once you heal, once you know who you are, once you stop negotiating your worth, you don't attract chaos anymore. You attract peace. You attract women who add to your life, not drain it. You attract people who match your energy instead of robbing it. So if you've been disrespected, manipulated, or minimized, use it. Use the pain to level up, not just to leave her, but to never settle again. Let your standards be so clear, so high, and so unshakable that disrespect can't even find a place to sit in your presence. Brothers, let this sink in. You were not put on this earth to be tolerated. You were not born to be someone's emotional punching bag, backup plan, or silent partner in pain. You are not here to beg for attention, chase approval, or settle for conditional love wrapped in pretty words and cold actions. No matter what you've tolerated in the past, no matter how long you stayed silent, no matter how deep the disrespect ran, you can stop it. You can outgrow it, and you can walk away from it with your dignity fully intact. Because you don't fix disrespect by fixing her. You fix it by fixing your reflection, rebuilding your confidence, and refusing to let anyone treat you beneath the standard you set for yourself. So let this be your line in the sand. From this day forward, you do not argue for your worth. You walk in it. You don't beg for basic respect. You command it through how you live, how you speak, and most importantly, how quickly you walk away from anything that costs you your peace. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to remember who you are, because a man who knows his value doesn't force anyone to see it. He simply removes himself until he's around people who do.